thrilling to have Mickey then to be a member of my artistic home. But I just said one day, film is really important for you.
His talent had blossomed in New York, but if Mickey was to become an international movie star, he was going to have to head west. You then make the move to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Talk me through that. I mean, this is... Yeah, exactly. I mean, in an odd way, everything's like going downhill after that. But, I mean, when you were making that move, it must have been, to you at the time, the great dream.
Well, my acting teacher forced me to do that because I was still having a hard time walking and communicating with somebody I didn't know. I go in sometimes at casting sessions and there wouldn't be a word said. They go, okay, well, thank you very much. You know, so that process was not easy for me. That's something at the studio. They didn't teach that. They didn't teach the politics. They didn't teach the business side. And I wasn't educated or sophisticated or experienced enough to understand that it was a business and that it was political.
But that is quite significant for you, because there's no doubt as your career went on, the big barrier for you was that you were not particularly savvy about the way Hollywood really worked.
No, I had no clue. And if I could do it all over again, I would have paid more attention to that.
So you touched down on a place that you don't really like, but you realise it's the centre of your world. You've got to be there to play.
Well, I was bouncing in a transvestite nightclub. I mean, it was like, that was my job, you know. And back then, all the transvestites were on this shit called angel dust. So you'd hit them over the head with a baseball bat and they keep on coming, you know.
So things are going well. You're a bouncer in a transvestite nightclub.
Yeah, and then I got a job. I finally got the Body Heat movie.
Yeah, which was a big film.
Yeah, and...
Well, they actually said you got the job. I mean, you must have been...
Well, I went in... Yeah,
stunned, didn't you?
Well, they offered me a certain amount of money, and I said, no, fuck that. I said, I want such and such. He said, Mickey, every young actor in Hollywood wants his part. I said, I still want this much money. He goes, you're working in a transvestite nightclub. I said, I don't give a fuck. And they gave me the extra $500 that I asked for.
But by doing that, you would have immediately put their backs up, right? You'd immediately signal yourself as trouble.
I think that was the beginning of the end. The beginning was the beginning of the end.
You just wouldn't play the game.
I wouldn't compromise. Not after now that I could say, after what I had been through, there was no compromising with anybody, under any circumstances.
Because of your upbringing?
Yeah, yeah.
And your agent thought you were just being ridiculous?
Couldn't understand it in a million years.
But you got the money?
Got the money.
And what was it like making that first big film?
I went, man, if this is what they call acting, I'll be here for a long time. I thought it was...
You loved it?
Yeah, but it was easy.
It was comfortable to do?
It was easy. Yeah, it was a walk in the park.
Anytime you try a decent crime, you got 50 ways you can fuck up. If you think of 25 of them, then you're a genius. And you ain't no genius.
There's a small part he plays in Body Heat, which is just extraordinary. It's a tiny, tiny part, and it's just utterly mesmerising.
You remember who told me that? Hey, no smoking in here.
He was doing stuff that no actor at the time was doing.
I wouldn't even be on the street if it wasn't for you.
And to me, it was just fresher and dangerous.
After his small but attention-grabbing role in Body Heat in 1981, the offers came thick and fast. In the first half of the 80s, Mickey clocked up a string of great movie performances. In Diner, alongside other newcomers like Kevin Bacon and Steve Guttenberg. Coppola's Rumblefish with Matt Dillon. And The Pope of Greenwich Village with Eric Roberts and Daryl Hannah. The press were calling this fresh group of young actors the Brat Pack. And their leader was the dark, brooding Mickey Rourke, who was being hailed as the next Brando.
He's an artist that's constantly giving the audience an aesthetic arrest. That's rare.
The initial Mickey that I saw in Diner was a really cool young movie star, and was the coolest looking guy I've ever seen.
Creative people like Adrian Lyne on 9½ Weeks, and Barry Levinson and Alan Parker got it, and got it quick, and had to have him.
He had a sort of roughness around the edges, which just made his sort of appearances on screen so powerful and kind of very sexy.
So after Body Heat, things are going well for you. The offers start coming in, the movies are there, and you become, for want of a better phrase, the next hot thing in Hollywood. What is that experience like?
All hell broke loose.
Did you feel like the shackles were off?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a young movie star, it's happening, and I'm going to love every second.
Yeah, I did. I had a crazy time.
And it was literally just, I mean, I hope the answer is relentless sex, drugs, and rock and roll, was it, Mickey?
Absolutely, yeah.
The ex-Miami Beach bum had come a long way. He'd married his first love, fellow actor Deborah Fewer, in 1981. But by the mid-80s was living the indulgent life of a movie star bachelor. He was being paid huge amounts of money, but spending it just as fast, buying a beautiful home in Beverly Hills and spreading it around his growing entourage. When you're hot in Hollywood, you can do whatever you want. And Mickey did. You have obviously this tag, Hellraiser. How much of a party boy were you? What was the reality of a night out with Mickey Rourke in those days?
It was out of control. It was different places to go every night, beautiful women.
A lot of drugs?
No, I was never really got into the drugs that much. Later on, dabbled in some shit, but it was never about the drugs. You know, it was just going out and chasing the pussy.
And were you good at it?
Depends on what movie you had out.
Which was the best pulling movie you ever made? Must be 9.5 Weeks, right?
Probably.
I mean, how many women did you have on the back of 9.5 Weeks?
Enough.
The super stylish erotic tale of obsession was Rourke's first romantic lead and co-starred Kim Basinger. Nudity, explicit sex scenes featuring a blindfold and the contents of a fridge prove that strawberries and whipped cream can be used, well, for more than just trifle.
That was outrageously sexy and turned him from a sort of indie cool guy student favourite into a housewife's favourite. You know, everyone wanted a piece of Mickey Rourke.
The film was the cultural phenomenon of 1986. The soundtrack dominated the airwaves, and whether they've seen it or not, everybody was talking about its sizzling stars.
Well, I remember going to the first British press screening of 9.5 Weeks, and I remember afterwards the reaction of all the journalists, and everyone was convinced that he was going to be a star, but every woman just was jaw on the floor because they couldn't get over how sexy he was. He was a real sort of Paul Newman, James Dean, Richard Gere type sex symbol.
And I remember that film vividly. I mean, it played a massively helpful part in my squiring, as we called it in England at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, every woman wanted to be associated with Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
Every bloke wanted to be like you. It was the dream role for you, really.
I didn't know that at the time.
Are you proud of that movie?
I don't know. I don't think about that movie.
Why?
Probably because there's not a day goes by that somebody doesn't come up and mention it.
It's the one defining film.
Yeah, guys will bring it up in the street, usually when they're drunk. Oh man, when oh God, I gotta hear this again, you know.
What's the most repetitive question you get on 9.5 Weeks?
What do you think?
I've got a better idea.
Yeah, okay.
Go on.
And I say no.
Out of a league of many young hopefuls, it was Mickey Rourke who stood out. It wasn't just his acting ability. Everything about him had a kind of 80s X factor that the media lapped up.
If you think of the sort of reinvention of Levi's, Budweiser, 1950s Americana iconography, that was big, really big. And the industry wanted a sort of face to put to that. And that was Mickey Rourke. Not only was he very sort of acceptable in a sort of Matt Dillon way, he was cute, but he was tough. He was a proper film star. For about 3 years, he was the hottest thing on earth.
Mickey followed up 9.5 Weeks with Angel Heart, a movie directed by Sir Alan Parker.
When he looks low-key, he's even in control, you know. It's like he makes for a very relaxed set.
Acting opposite Robert De Niro.
It wasn't like two actors at all. It was like two prize fighters, you know, not a physical jab, but a wisecrack or an ad-lib or something. You know, Mickey was never gonna be beaten in the ring by De Niro because it meant a lot to him. He said, I want to prove that I'm as good as he is. He used to say it to me every day we did the scene.
So you were living the movie star dream.
Yeah.
Did it feel as good as you hoped it might be?
Yeah. but as success